Hi, I'm Nate Rehlander. I'm a photographer. I'm a full-time professor of photography at Collin College, and I'm an artist, photographer. As long as I can remember, I have always had a camera available to me, whether it was almost never a professional style camera, but it was a camera of some sort. I started off with an Instamatic and then graduated up to a Polaroid camera that I inherited from a relative at some point in my life, and then saved up my money, bought my first professional camera in high school, and then from there traded in throughout the years, getting better and better cameras, more lenses, but it was always photography. That's been my passion since as long as I can remember. Documentary is one of my favorite forms of art, of photography, and so I incorporate a documentary style in almost everything I do, whether that's photographing architecture or weddings or events or even portraits. My aim is to capture as close as possible the essence of whatever it is that I'm photographing, so that way it is preserved for all time, for future generations to see what this, whether it was a person, a place, or an event, to see as closely as possible without being there themselves, a true representation of that. So this collection, I have always been fascinated with signs. I love especially unique signs. I think that, especially like 1920s through the 1960s, there was really just a unique explosion of the art and craft of sign making. And, every establishment had, for the most part, a unique sign, whether it was, the way it was shaped, the color palettes that they used, the fonts or typeface, or, all of that was just pretty much unique to that one company. And so whenever you would see that sign, you knew exactly, even just from the shape of it, what it belonged to. And so because these signs are pretty much, or the signs that I'm focusing on are pretty much unique, one of one, I chose Polaroid to document them with because, Polaroid is a one-of-one technique as well. And so even if I were to go back and try and photograph them again, getting the same angle or the same light or even the same look with the film is probably not going to happen. I'm not going to be able to make an exact replica of what I did initially, and so that's part of the beauty to me, is that I'm getting this one-time look for this particular sign. So this is I have a lot. So it's from family and friends and mentors. My mentor in photography, Lisa Means, has taught me so much even after I graduated college. And then my two photography professors in college, Stan Godwin and Bill McDowell, were instrumental in taking me from a very rough self-taught photographer and bringing me into somebody who could actually go out and shoot commercial work. And then I've had the good fortune to work with some of my photographic heroes throughout the years, such as Walter Eos, who I feel is probably the greatest sports photographer ever. And so that was a huge honor to be able to work with him. My big passion outside of photography is music. Bob Dylan is a huge influence. In fact, my wife and I just last night had watched for the millionth time No Direction Home, the Martin Scorsese film on Dylan, and so it just so it is just like first and foremost in my head right now, just how amazing he is through all of his iterations throughout the years. But then watching that too just reminded me how much I love like the beat poets too, Kerouac, Ginsberg, Ferlinghetti, and those words just tumbling off the page in just, ways I had never experienced before. Just these vivid descriptions of, people and places that I knew I wanted to become a part of. And then, all of that culminated, I guess, in the work of Robert Frank, the photographer, and his, seminal work like The Americans, and then the films he did with the Beat Poets, such as Pull My Daisy with William S. Burroughs and people like that, and just all of this, just tumbles together, and I just crave it all. I just consume it as much as possible. Quite a while, because I've gone through various phases. It was funny, when I got out of college, I thought that I would be a photographer, musician, and then I learned that it's very hard to make a living in that, because all musicians have a friend that's a photographer that do it for them for free, and so I learned very quickly that I would not pay the bills doing that, so I had to pivot, and so then I came into with my documentary love, pursuing things like shooting weddings and events, and then stumbled by accident into architecture photography. And so actually that's architecture and events now are my two principal areas of photography. It's taken several years to get to this point, and even outside of that, I do a lot of skate photography, skateboarding. In fact, I have a YouTube channel dedicated to that. There's no money in that either, so that's just a passion. It's like all of these things kind of like throughout the years have intertwined and branched off and come back together. So I feel like they kind of all spill into each other and come into focus and then out of focus, to use a metaphor, throughout the years. Maybe 20 years to get where I thought that I was, going to be in college, and then since then another 20 years to kind of move around that, get to a point now where I feel comfortable doing a variety of genres that will take me, help me do whatever I need to, everywhere. I find it in the signs that I see as I'm driving. I see, in interesting people I meet. In fact, one of the things I do as a teacher at Collin is I like to take a Polaroid of each of my students from the class, so that way I have a visual record of who all attended my classes throughout the years. And so I've put them in an album that I can see throughout the years. I'm like, oh man, yes, I remember they were in my class. And inspiration I take from music. I listen, because when I'm developing my lesson plans, I'm always listening to music. When I'm taking pictures, I have my music with me. So music is, the biggest source of inspiration. And then just other artists, Elizabeth Mellett, who's in this exhibit with me. It's been amazing just talking with her. She is an amazing artist, and it's so cool to, just connect and over the love of art in general, photography in particular, but just the philosophies behind bodies of work, and just trading back and forth. Like, have you seen this exhibit or this book? I just I love the immediacy of having an image right away, because I grew up in this small town out in East Texas, and we didn't have a whole lot of access to things like film or developing labs and printing. So getting my hands on film and then getting it processed and developed was a bit of a process, especially before I had a driver's license and was able to get outside of the city. And it was at least a 30-minute drive one way to get to a point where I could get stuff developed, and then at that time you had to wait a week to get it back, and then do another 30-minute drive out to go get it. So having Polaroid, the immediacy of it was always something that fascinated me. Great artists, throughout the years who have done incredible work with Polaroids. Andy Warhol's, got this famous series of Polaroids. Chuck Close with his 20 by 24 inch Polaroids. Walter Eos does these incredible 4 by 5 and 8 by 10 Polaroids, portraits of athletes. So yeah, so Polaroids have always just kind of held, you know, a fascination with me, you know, because there is that immediacy with it, and it's, you know, been used, you know, in both highbrow and lowbrow situations, and so everyone, I feel like, has an entry point with Polaroids. Even, you know, young people today, they know about Polaroids. Polaroids are everywhere still, and so people can relate to it, and they, you know, it's something I feel like, you know, as even if you feel like you're not a photographer, even, you know, most people, you know, they take pictures with their phone, but they can still take pictures with a Polaroid. They can pick up a Polaroid camera and they can still make a neat picture with it, even if they don't know what they're doing. Yes, that's also a good question. I have to be very, very conscious about it. In fact, I start getting antsy if I go too long without creating something. In fact, this series that I'm showing about the signs actually came about because during my holiday break in December, I was feeling antsy because I wasn't creating anything. I was like, man, I've really got to do something. And so I was like, I was, you know, I'd started writing down ideas of what kind of a series could I start, and what would be, you know, practical to continue over a long period of time, because eventually with this body of work, my goal is to have it both to be kind of a traveling exhibition as well as an eventual book. And so out of a series of ideas I had come up with, and this was the idea that I was like, okay, this is great. I can do this. I can, you know, sustain, you know, this is sustainable. I can go out, you know, a couple times a week, photograph signs at, you know, various times of day, and, you know, go back throughout, you know, different times of the year, you know, when the light's different and it's different quality. I've got it on my phone. I'm like, okay, this day I'm going to go out and I'm going to shoot, you know, for 2 or 3 hours. I'm going to drive, because the hard thing about, you know, with the sign thing is, you know, they're spread all over the city and the county. So I'm driving, you know, from this place to that, and, you know, then when I get there, sometimes the sun isn't where I thought it was going to be. So then I have to come back at a later period of time, and so it's just a lot of looking at the calendar and being like, okay, I'm blocking this off, so I have to do it now because it's on the calendar. I hope that anybody who comes to see this is inspired to by both Professor Mellett's and my own work, to go out and try it for themselves. You know, pick up a camera, whatever kind that is, whether it's your phone, Polaroid, film, digital, whatever. Just get out and, you know, just start taking pictures and, you know, document the world around you. You know, for yourself, for your family, for your friends. You know, things change at such a rapid rate. History is being made and lost, you know, constantly. So let's document this for, you know, the years to come and the generations to come, and, you know, give them something to remember, you know, this time and place by.